Good evening, everybody. How's it going? Oh boy. Close that. Good evening, everybody. How's it going? That was the fucking incredible Caroliner. I don't know what incarnation they were this time. Shout out to my friend Fletcher for sending that along. They haven't recorded anything for many, many, many years. I don't think they've even performed live for quite a few years. So this is kind of the triumphant return. They played 2 shows this weekend. Here's some stills. They have, it's a big group of people. It's kind of always not necessarily a rotating cast every single time. I'm not super familiar with the history of who's played and for how long they played, but Greg Turkington, who you might know as Neil Hamburger, for those of you who know. He also did that movie show with Tim Heidecker. Grux is kind of the guy behind the whole thing. I believe he's kind of the main drive behind it. Colorful costumes, cardboard sets, great, like paper mache. Everything is kind of in black light. Amazingly weird stuff. I love it. I wish I would have seen them. I'm sure there's going to be, they usually post shows. Grux usually posts shows that he puts on and even performs on BitChute. So when that makes an appearance on BitChute, I'll make sure that I talk about it again and share it. But kind of infamous band there off the top for you. How's it going, everybody? It's Sunday this afternoon. We had a chat, Rasa and I, over on her channel. Let me grab my water. Over on her channel. Go and check that out if you're interested in hearing us prattle on about a bunch of shit. I'm going soak that in. Didn't read a ton this week, so it'll probably be a bit of a shorter video depending on who comes through. I see that there's a few people watching. Welcome. Nice to sort of see you. Let's start off strong here. So I was a little confused as to what volume was what, but issue number 3 of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Journey, which is actually volume 4 of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I believe it was back at an imprint, maybe at Mirage again, question mark. From what I've read, I don't think this has ever been reprinted. This is the first time it's been reprinted. I don't even think that it's been collected. I was doing a little bit of digging on my CLZ app. It's pretty good with showing you the collected editions of stuff. And I was mistaken. I thought this was volume 2, but it is not. This is volume 4 of the Ninja Turtles. There's your creators there. Peter Laird, Jim Lawson, Eric Talbot, doing all of the duties there. I'm still loving this. I think this one is only slated for 5 issues. I guess the first thing to get off the bat here is it's a $4.99 cover price. And for that $4.99, do you get a meager 22 pages of story? Fuck no, you don't. You get 48. I don't think that that's showing up there, but you get 48 pages. There's so many storylines going on in here. We jump into the story with a group of people looking for a giant, what they think is a giant dinosaur in the jungle. And they come to find that it is not, but it's the coolest fucking alien you've seen in your life. Speaking of Caroliner and Costume Noise, guys, there you go, man. That's a thing of beauty. I fucking love that page. One of the things that this story is doing so well is kind of balancing all of the multiple stories that are going on. We start to see kind of a culmination of some of the stories coming up at the end here. But I'm still really, really digging this. This is an absolute joy to read. So I am fully invested. If you haven't jumped on yet, like I said, I believe there's only 2 more issues coming. I'm sure that it'll be well, I'm not sure of anything, I suppose, but I'm guessing that it's going to be collected after this. I don't know how long the 4th volume went on. I don't know if it was only 5 issues, if it kind of continued further than that. I'm not too familiar with the story of that. When I looked at CLZ, what did it have? Did it have 30 issues posted in there? Was that something else I was looking at? Anyway, that info is out there. Pick this book up if you want to get the singles, or wait a couple more issues and you'll get a nice collection, I'm sure. But this is fucking amazing. So when I was at the bookstore yesterday with my daughter, I saw this hardcover there staring at me, and I thought that I was mistaken. I thought that TMNT Journeys was volume 2. This one collects volume 2 of the Ninja Turtles. That isn't the case. So this book is volume 2, and it's Jim Lawson doing the whole thing, isn't it? Let's look at the credits proper here. Let's see. Stories in pencil, Jim Lawson. Inks by Jason Temujin Minor. Colors by Mary Woodring. Oh, look at this, Mary Woodring. Issue number 2, same creators, different colorist. Yeah, so Jim Lawson is credited on everything with stories and pencils the whole way. So there's 13 issues. Started in October 1993, ended in October 1995. Yeah, so Eric Talbot also does some inks in here as well too, once we get to issue number 4. So I grabbed this thinking it was TMNT Journeys collected, and because I was so into the story, I wanted to kind of keep reading it. But that's not the case. Either way, I read the first 2 issues of this. I might set this aside until I'm finished my read of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Volume 1. Hello, Garage Geek. I'm jumping in for a few minutes. Good to see you, even for a few minutes. The first 2 issues are very, very intriguing. The first issue is kind of everybody's having these visions, and it sort of ends on a note of like it was a film being produced. And so it was a bit of a puzzling thing as we get into, I'll just show you that final page there. So a Michelangelo production. So we get some credits there. Then we jump into issue number 2, and we're kind of continuing on with our story, and it's probably going to steer towards all these visions that people had. So an interesting way to frame this this volume. So I've only read the 2 issues. I think I'm going to stop there with it because I do want to finish reading volume 1, and I've got a fair way to go there because there's what, 61, 62 issues or something like that in that first volume. So I've got a ways to go, but I'm glad I grabbed that. It was the only copy at the store, so at least I didn't miss out on that sucker. I also couldn't resist and picked up one of the Mobius books. So I never finished The Art of Mobius. I think there was 3 volumes of that. I only got the first one. I wasn't super keen on that first one, and we were talking about it this afternoon. That kind of era of Mobius, that later era stuff, isn't the most appealing to me. I can appreciate what he was, from what I understand, what he was trying to do with this more direct to paper, minimal backgrounds, very precise lines to make up images and scenery. I don't know how sold I am on the idea of a creator meeting and interacting with his characters on the page. Not that a million people have done that kind of idea, trying to break the fourth wall and kind of blur the reality a bit. And I'm sure that out of anybody, Mobius would be the guy to handle that kind of thing. But it just didn't appeal to me as much. And it was the same with the book, The Major, or at least what I thought The Major was. So the major is a lot of that. It was an experiment that took a kind of, well, maybe not an experiment. It was maybe a sketchbook project. I'm not really even sure if there was necessarily intent to ever have anybody else see this. I believe there was, but it was over a 10-year period where the idea was don't pre-plan anything, don't sketch anything out, just go ink to paper and do it panel by panel, take some space in between panels and pages, and just kind of make up a story as you're going, which again does not, believe me when I say, that does not sound super appealing to me, to be totally honest with you. But I've heard a lot of people rave about this major book. So again, seeing it at the shop, it's the only copy that was there. I passed on it when it first came out. I don't know. And I kind of, with some of this stuff, I'm at a point where, like the Richard Corbin library, my worry is that once this is gone off the shelves and it sells out, it's going to be impossible to get copies of this for anything close to a reasonable price. So we do get a prologue from Moebius himself. One of the things I'll say about this, like, I'm actually super impressed with this so far, to spoiler alert. It's much better than I maybe gave it credit for. Like, these pieces are incredible, and honestly, as we go through the story itself, you'll see that his chops are obviously still there. We get some bigger panels. We have our two kind of main characters going through the desert, discussing the existence of God and versus humanity. Does he do any work, or is he just a lazy bastard up in the sky? What exactly did he do? And they come across the major, who is in a box and kind of talks to them a little bit. Hello, Portfolio BD. Let's catch up here. That has cool art for the Ninja Turtles. Yeah. Rasa, I would think the Moebius books would sell out, though. Yes, agreed. But the art is so good. Yeah, Moebius is really good. But if you look at the art of Moebius books, I would argue that it's not kind of like his peak, right? Like, it's not a high level Moebius art. Again, from a guy who can barely draw straight lines. So, I mean, take it for what it's worth. It's just an opinion, right? Moebius must have had a happy life. He was literally paid to draw whatever he wished during all his life. Absolutely. And not only that, have a huge influence across art and science fiction, movies, comics, an amazing, amazing influence on art in general. So, yeah, it's a pretty good fucking book so far. I'm digging the back and forth. I'm digging the minimal landscapes. We do get reference. I'm kind of on page, I don't know, I'm on page 85 is where I'm at. So the major has left his box at some point here. Let me pick out a couple of panels here, though. Rasa was commenting on this in our chat this afternoon. Like, the shading, the shadow on his face as the major looks out of the box through this little window there is really gorgeous stuff. And again, clearly a guy who knows about figure drawing, who knows about shadows. Really amazing. So he's escaped out of his box, and he is interacting with the two characters walking through the desert who he's met before as they'd continued on their journey. And the characters start talking about Moebius. So we start to get the inklings of the characters in a book recognizing that they're in a book and recognizing that there is a creator called Moebius who is kind of dictating what they do. Let's skip forward a bit. So, like I said, this is beautiful stuff. So I'm really glad I changed my my stupid mind on it and realized the error of my ways. It also makes me want to revisit the Inside Moebius stuff and potentially pick up the other books if I come across them, for fear of that I'm really missing out and I've been wrong all along. So this is really fucking great stuff. I'll show you past where I'm reading as well too. So there we get Mr. Giraud right there as he enters into the story. The other thing they do nicely is in between each of these little chapters, there's a couple of pages of just white with part 5 in this case before you get back into the story. I've into the second part right now. It really is a nice moment to kind of catch your breath and sort of digest. And again, like the powerful use of setting a pace during storytelling in comics, and the ability, like when it's done well, when it's done deftly by someone who has a lot of experience, it really does offer you an opportunity to just take a breather. It gets the whole thing, just slows it right down, and you start just thinking a little bit about what the characters are saying. It also helps that we're not dealing with dense, smaller panels with a ton of text. So I think there's a nice balance going on here so far. So so far, so good. I'm really digging it. I'm glad I changed my mind. I'm glad I gave it a shot. You're now witnessing someone who, for the first time ever, admitting that I'm wrong. It'll never happen again. Don't worry. Stan Lee was so lucky during his lifetime. He was able to write for 2 Masters of Arts in 2 continents, Mobius and Kirby. Absolutely. I'm glad you got it then. I am glad I got it as well, for sure. The other bit of stuff I carried on reading, speaking of Mobius, continuing on at a very, very slow pace with Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. I'm about, 150 pages in, something like that? Yeah, 150 pages in. We've just come out of the, that there's been a crash at the toxic forest for our 2, what are going to become 2 of our main characters, obviously Nausicaa and the other guy whose name I'm blanking on right now. They've crashed into the poison forest, but gone underneath, where they've discovered they don't need to wear any masks. The air isn't toxic, and as a matter of fact, down there, the forest is healing itself, ready to regrow again. And it's stunning. I mean, it's no surprise. Again, I don't have anything to say about this that a million other people haven't said. One of my favorite Miyazaki films, but it's so hard to rank them because very, very, very close, is Spirited Away and Princess Mononoke and Totoro, etc. Right? So it's really difficult. But this is a beautiful book to just sit and very, very slowly read. One of the things I would say is that I do find some of the pages dense. It is a little difficult sometimes to follow. The translation feels like it's a little clunky. I'm assuming that's the translation. So there's parts where you question whether you've read a panel in the right order or if you've gone across the page a little incorrectly. So a bigger size would have been nice for sure, something, but I just don't know how you could, because it's 1,000 pages across 2 hardcover books as it is. So without that being a gigantic fucking brick on your shelf, I don't know how you do that. So great stuff. Again, another recommendation. This one from Studio Ghibli Library, but it also has the Viz logo on it, which brings us to the recommendation to watch this week. And I'm going to pop it up here. So as Larasa so expertly calls him, mattt, the guy with a bunch of T's, he has a video out a day ago. Manga broke the comic industry, and I will put the link into the description of this video. Let's see here. Pop it up on the screen. So this is the channel Matt Comic and Manga History. This one is a whopping hour and 22 minutes long. He said he did a bunch of, he had about 11 hours worth of interviews with people like even Frederick Schott, who put together what a lot of people, the kayfabe guys included, talk about as like the first book about manga and about this whole art form in Japan. It is a great, great documentary. Obviously, he stays well and above. He deals with kind of like the Marvel and DC of the manga world at that time, which was Viz and Tokyo Pop is who he ends up talking about the most. Some great interviews with people scattered throughout. Obviously, he talks about the big hitters. The stuff about Tokyo Pop was really interesting to me. I guess I didn't realize what an influence they had on things. So Walden Books, at this time, there wasn't, I don't even think there was very much like really any comics or anything in bookstores for the most part. Try and get some manga. This guy at Tokyo Pop was trying to get manga shared in bookstores. And through Walden Books, he had a connection there or made a friend there or whatever who was happened to be into manga and things, Japanese, like animation and stuff. So he helped him. Yes, we'll get some books in. Yes, we'll take some of your books. We'll even get you a special shelf to put some things on. And that sort of ended up breaking the seal on getting manga into bookstores. Viz obviously is a big competitor, started doing the same thing. The part that kind of blew my mind, though, was when they started talking about like the format and the decision to have the stuff reading from right to left. Again, keeping in mind that this is focusing on like the big two, I guess, of the manga world, not necessarily what some smaller companies were doing and other people were doing, because I'm sure it was happening elsewhere. But this reading from right to left was a big one. Obviously saved them a lot of time and money on flipping the art, dealing with the panels, etc., the layouts. And then the size, getting that kind of smaller uniform size, all of those decisions allowed them to have a price point of like $9.95 or something, because the advice was that if you can keep these books under $10, you're going to sell easier to kids. And it just sort of exploded there. And of course, like anything in comics and stuff, there's this big boom that happens and then a bust, right? They start saturating the market with a million titles. He's buying rights left, right, and center. And everything kind of comes crashing down. Amazing history. Really great stuff, especially because they do at the beginning talk about like Eclipse and First Comics that were doing some of those first translations, talking about wanting to have the Phoenix be the first thing that was published in English. And I'm blanking on his name now, the Astro Boy creator. It was a guy, Frederick Schott, made friends with that creator. I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. Anyway, they made friends and built up this relationship where he trusted him to kind of get his stuff translated into English. That deal fell through. He still did the manga book, which again, the kayfabe guys have talked about. Shout out to the kayfabers. But the point being that it's nice to get that history kind of concise in one spot to see how quickly things have changed. I've been a fan of manga and animation or anime since like the late 90s, especially when we moved to Ontario, seeing more of it, joining up with the anime club, going to this Toronto science fiction convention, finding some anime and some manga that I paid way too much money for, but just to have some of that in your hand was incredible. And to see kind of how it's grown in our bookstore that's just a few blocks of that away. Like I've said before, the manga section in the graphic novels takes up more space now than Marvel and DC. It actually takes up more space than the Marvel and DC, the indie bookshelf, and what do they call, like the literary bookshelf as well too, full of comics basically. And it kind of shadows all of that stuff. So amazing the journey that it's taken. So strong recommendation watching that as well too. To know that Miyazaki and Moebius were friends and created together is just mind-blowing. And the proof that there's still hope for humankind to evolve into something superior in the future. Absolutely. It is great knowing that they were friends. And then the influence that, because the other video we talked about was where he talks about he talks about Moebius and his influence even on guys like Katsuhiro Otomo for Akira. Talks about his experience with Miyazaki, etc. So the influence, it's enormous. If kids read comics, it's manga. It really, truly is. It's so goddamn popular. And every time I go to that bookstore, there's a number of kids there kind of all the time, looking in that section of various ages. But definitely all of them under 18. There's obviously some adults and stuff looking in graphic novels too, but the manga section always has people in it picking up books, reading books, chatting, giggling, buying stuff. Like, it's amazing to see Anything that gets people into bookstores and libraries, I'm all for it. We happen to be fans of manga around here. And speaking of which, the last thing I'll talk about today is the mighty Legend of Kamui. This is book 2. How far am I in this one now? 366 pages. And of course, it's amazing. Here's what I'll say to you. I'll just read you a little passage. I think the day will come when distinctions among samurai, genin, and outcasts won't exist. Everyone will live by growing rice. The world only exists because of people who work. People who don't work are not necessary, so it is strange to have classes. And if there was any doubt as to why I liked this book, that clearly states why this works so well for me. It's such a great story. It's amazingly told. Yes, there are times where there's a lot of characters in a story where it kind of gets a little hard to keep track of who's there, but the storytelling is beautiful. And there was a chapter in here, or a big chunk of the book, where we revisit again the white wolf. So we go back to nature, and these two kind of lone wolves making friends with each other ish, where they end up figuring out a way to work together, even though they don't get along at all at the beginning. Sanpei makes a point of stating, like, again, that this isn't like humans. They don't feel sorry for each other. Those are human characteristics you're trying to put on an animal. This is just nature's way. This is just the natural state of things. So really nicely done having this paired with the rest of this story. And that idea of these two wolves working together because they're going to starve to death in wintertime if they don't. So what else are they going to do? Got such amazing books. You're inspiring. Thank you so much. In 15, I got more than from 20 other hour-long videos. Well, there you go. Thanks very much, Garage Geek. Thanks for stopping in. So volume 2 out of a proposed 10 volumes. And I can't wait to read more. So shit's about to go down in the world of Kamui here. In the rest of this volume, where there's going to be potentially some kind of uprising that's coming. It's definitely brewing between the farmers and these outcasts and stuff. So they're starting to make friends and they're starting to work together, even though they're these genin or genin and outcasts that aren't supposed to necessarily mix. They're starting to kind of integrate and realize that, hey, we can help each other. We may not like each other, but we can help each other, just like the white wolf, right? So really, really fucking good. I'm glad that they're only doing 2 a year. Again, it's like the Metal Hurlant schedule. It's nice if you're going to give us something this beefy to kind of spread out those release dates, to give us enough time to kind of digest it and actually read the books and actually enjoy the books. Also gives you something to look forward to. Very, very much looking forward to finishing this and getting the next one. This Wednesday is when the next Richard Corbin library book comes out, which is Rat God. I think it's been collected before. I've got the single issues. I think that there's something extra in there as well, too. Maybe another story or two from, I'm not sure if it's from like the Underground days or where it's from, but very much looking forward to get my hands on that one. So that should be this Wednesday that comes out. And as far as anything else that I've read, nothing else. I did get my hands on a couple of books. 2 of them are gifts. This is Peter Cooper's The System, issue 1 and issue 2. I've got this 3-issue series, but this is stuff that I know a few people that would dig it, but one guy in particular who I messaged, and we're going to try to meet up on Saturday so I can give it to him. He's got issue number 3, so this fills out that trilogy for him. I also got my hands on another copy of the Brat Pack series by Rick Veitch. So again, something that I'm kind of holding on to for trade, or maybe I'll sell it as a set. I'm not quite sure yet, but this will gladly go in my doubles bin to start building up maybe more trade material. So shout out to Galaxy Comics. This is from the indie comics bin that he got in recently, stuff that I've picked to set aside for myself. So that's great. Let's see. I think that's about it, people. Yeah, that's it. Everything else is I've also dipped into more Rachel Rising, but I'm going to talk about that once I've kind of finished that book, I think. That's all. Thanks very much for hanging out. Check out the links. Check out that mattt video. Check out some Carolina. I would suggest checking out Carolina on YouTube and checking out some live performances. Just for those visual elements, I think it really adds to it. If any of that music off the top appealed to you whatsoever, I know there is a small percentage of people that watch this that stuff does appeal to. So by all means, dig in, and thanks a lot for hanging out, and we'll talk to you.